The supreme deity, the avatar of light, immune to every physical attack. The Demon King, the embodiment of the darkness, creator and destroyer of entire worlds. The Fairy Tree. What's up, guys? I'm here to do a great breakdown and discussion and analysis and review of chapter 173 of Four Knights of the which is known as the Dialogue. And this chapter, it did multiple things that I really like. And it fulfilled something that I was really hoping for. And did raise a whole bunch of questions for me. But I think they're all good questions. Like, real good questions. I don't think there's like a single bad question that arises from this chapter. Though it did instill like one major worry inside me. But let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Ending me. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, you want to check out the live reaction in this chapter? It is a solid, I think, like 20 minutes or 23 minutes. I forget. But it's a nice little chunky live reaction. The link to my Patreon is in the description down below. You can check this live reaction out for $1 and every other live reaction for all other Four Knights chapters down below on the Patreon for as $1 a month. Or you can become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to check out the live reaction. And, you know, everything else that comes with that. But enough of that. Let's talk about this cover page and how, like, if this ain't what this whole dynamic will be, y'all. If this ain't what this whole dynamic will be, like, you ever just look at something and be like, I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. And I know the author is going to keep pretending like it's going to happen, even though I know it's not going to happen. And you know what? The one thing I'll give Nakaba in Seven Deadly Sins is that, like, we didn't, except for Jericho and Bond. But I think it's because, like, Percy is the main character of Four Knights versus Mel and Bond. Well, Bond being a main character, not the main character of Seven Deadly Sins. I think it didn't hit as much as he did it with Jericho, that he's now doing it with Nasians. Look at that. That is a person in love. That is a person in love. They are fiending. They want all of them deathly horns deep inside them, though. Like, you can tell there is passion. There is desire behind those eyes. Look at those cheeks. Look at those cheeks. They are literally pulling out roots from the ground. And then Austin's like, oh, the things I would do to that boy. And you know it's not going to happen. And, like, who knows? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the problem. But, like, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, there's no way. I mean, would I be mad? No. But, like, Anne exists. And I don't, once again, in my great grand calculus of Nakaba deciding randomly that, you know what? We have too many characters. One of them needs to go. I just don't see Anne being the one to go. I think she has longevity issues. I think if that's her only sacred treasure, she's kind of cooked. if Mirage Stinger is the best she's got and her magic doesn't evolve any further, she's cooked. She's garbage. She's trash. Like, she shouldn't be able to keep up. She's way in a, how do I put this in a way that doesn't sound insulting to Anne? Narratively speaking, she's in a way worse position than Elizabeth was, and Elizabeth wasn't in a good narrative position in the Seven Deadly Sins. Because in spite of Elizabeth's great power and reason to have great power, aka being the reincarnation of the most powerful goddess of all time, she was viciously jobbed over and over again for Mel and his development. I feel the same thing is happening to Anne, and unfortunately her sacred treasure did not really help that much with that. But Nasians is, like, in a really good position, especially after this chapter. But, like, romantically and narratively, I smell Escanor. I smell like a character who's important and well tied to main character, who gonna die for main character, and not necessarily get their love by the end of the story, because Nakaba's just that cruel. I don't know. I feel it in my bones. I almost want to, like, if I had beans, I'd put beans on it, but, like, y'all feel what I feel, right? Like, ultimately, either Nasians, the best case scenario for Nasians is that they're alive at the end of the series. They just have unrequited love, and they don't become like Jericho, and then become like a villain in the next series. Worst case scenario, Nasians dies with unrequited love. Hey, they got 6 little brothers and sisters to take up their place for them, so I don't know. It's looking kind of rough, but otherwise it's a cute cover page. I do like it. Once again, and it's funny because Percy does not make a singular appearance in this chapter. He makes an appearance, but not an appearance, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, Percy, the man, is still off healing Anne somewhere, which at first in the last video, I was like, darn, Percy, you really couldn't just quickly heal up Anne and make sure that Nosins is okay? Like, what if Nosins also gets brutalized? But I almost want to take that, even though I don't think it's intended, I want to take that as a sign that Percy has absolute faith in Nosins and is like, they'll be fine. They're going to win their match. I don't need to be here to watch this. Anne's in critical condition. I need to make sure I heal her right to make sure she's okay and take her to a safe place to rest. Nosins, they got that. I hope that's what that is, and not just Percy being like, I care about Anne more because I will marry Anne. She's my OTP. Pan will be canon. I do not care about Possians. But enough of that. Let's hop right into chapter 173, the dialogue. We open up and we do get to see that the Purgatory Rift is open. And I'll admit, we have the other Purgatory Beast here though, right? The one under Rothus's control, the imperceptible one. So like, it's entire. Oh, and someone brought up an interesting idea. Was it Igneal? I think it was. I should just check. I will not check. For the sake of my own mind, I think it was Igneal. Or someone had brought up the idea that maybe Purgatory Beasts are just invisible. The only reason I say no is because Hawk. Because, like, Hawk is a Purgatory Beast, and he's very visible. Like, outside. But then again, maybe Purgatory Beasts that aren't like Hawk, that were, like, naturalized and raised in the living world, are like, possibly just imperceptible, considering Purgatory is a place of, like, souls and stuff like that, and poisons, and, like, weirdly adapted living creatures. But I still think mostly it will just be Rothus's creature specifically invisible, whether it be to Rothus's magic, or not Rothus's, Turret's creature is invisible because of Turret's magic, or the special property of said creature, because we've also seen other Purgatory Beasts be visible in the real world. But then again, technically, maybe those just visual for us. Remember the Purgatory Beast that Macduff called when he had to escape Walnock? That was also, like, in sight. But then again, the only thing that saw it was another life spirit. Or not another life spirit, another spirit that was hunting it down, being the fire spirit. So I don't know. It's very iffy on whether or not Purgatory Beasts are visible to regular creatures. If it's not, I'm actually perfectly fine with that. That'd be a really cool buff for Purgatory creatures. But all that being the case, we see Rothus say, "Hey, I'll suggest you give up this fight. I was the worst possible opponent you could have drawn." And I agree with Rothus currently in the matchup sense. But like, Rothus, buddy, you've yet to proven that you're very physically powerful. You just have good resistances. And like, sure, it's cool that you have good resistances, but it's not like the craziest thing. And it's not making me, lose my mind, buddy. Like, I've seen characters who have resistances and power. If it truly was that you were so powerful and dangerous and unstoppable, you would have just one-shot Nosins by this point. You would have had to, let me activate this super crazy top-tier secret magic gatekeeper. Yeah! Like, you wouldn't have had to do that. But you had to do that. And you currently aren't attacking them. So, like, buddy, pal. I mean, like, if you truly were built like that, I think you would have one-shot Nosins, but you clearly aren't built like that. At least not in my opinion. You were doing good last chapter, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know, buddy. The worst possible opponent, when Ballin's here, heck, when your other guy Turret is here, when Percival's here, when Gawain is here, when Tampa's here, I don't know about all that, bro. That was a worst possible opponent, but a really, really bad matchup. We do get to see that Capitoni, who now I'm just because I feel like it'd be weird because it was confirmed. Thank you to the Hawk for confirming. I almost said the Hawk to it, but thank you to the Hawk for confirming that the person who's next to Bors and Edlin, there we go. Bors and Edlin, that's the fake Isold. I completely slipped my brain on that fact. That's the fake Isold. That can't be Gother. Unless the fake Isold is Gother. That'd be weird. I don't think so. But that literally, unless Gother is just a random person in the crowd that's going to reveal themselves eventually, I am so locked on the idea that Capitoni is Gother. I can smell it. It just seems it'd be so perfect, ironically enough. And I would not be shocked if Gother went to secure a high position of power to make sure everything goes okay. And being the assistant to Beltrep would make perfect sense. It would also explain why Capitoni doesn't know anything. Or at least seems to not know anything and needs everything explained to them by Beltrep. Because this is their first time here. Why would they randomly be assigned here? Unless they were somebody else. But then again, Gother could just be a random person. Or being carried around by somebody. I don't know. But with it being the case, we see Capitoni saying, Lord Beltrep, what is this strange rift? What is that strange rift? And Beltrep hits a little chuckle. He goes, Okay, he doesn't do all that. He just hits the and says, it leads to Purgatory, a world of searing heat, frigid cold and lethal poisons. Simply touching the miasma seeping from it could kill a person. Which is very impressive. Once again, this presumably does mean regular people, though. Like, Merlin's dad technically did survive. Didn't come out well, because he was a regular dude, magic-wise, but he lived. He lived, and he, like, spent actual time in Purgatory. He was able to tell that a whole minute was but a year in there. Like, that's how Merlin got that data. So, ultimately, not a bad feat for Purgatory, though. Even a drop touching the miasma alone is enough to slaughter a random person. That's good stuff. That's a very dangerous realm. Even, then again, and it's why I don't blame people for getting the demon world and Purgatory mixed up, because apparently that's the same thing there. Like, the miasma in there will just kill you if you're a regular person. That's why Tristan and Percy ultimately needed to be, like, the anti-people, to be like, hey, let's make sure everything stays copacetic here, and y'all don't immediately die from existing in the demon world. So, it is interesting. I do wonder if, since Purgatory does seem to be the realm that predates all realms, right? Like, even the mortal, well, then again, Britannia / the planet the series takes place on is what Purgatory created, or the mortal realm itself is what, no, not Purgatory created, is what Chaos created, or if it is like that whole spatial dimension, I'm not sure. I feel like it's stated to be the world, so I'm leaning into the world. I wouldn't be shocked if someone said the whole spatial dimension, but with that being the case, Purgatory and the Capital of the Dead seem like the most ancient realms, so I wouldn't be shocked if the Demon King saw Purgatory or experienced it and was like, I want to make my realm just like that, so my people can be strong. Because it seems so weird that the two are all so similar, and then the Demon King can just chill there, despite being sealed there for forever. But with it being the case, we do get to see that the Purgatory guck and goo, oogly goo, just starts spreading everywhere. And we see that Nasians realizes, is that Purgatorial miasma? Purgatorial, that's such an interesting word. But Purgatorial miasma? It's rapidly corrupting the space around him. And then Rothus is like, so, what will it be? If you admit to fiend like a sportsman should, I'll close the rift. But if you go on like you want to die an agonizing death, I won't stop you. And notably, Rothus, he just stands there. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. Maybe it's like an energy saving tactic, and he knows that he's gonna have to fight later. But guess what, Rothus? Do you know who your next opponent is? Theodora. So, like, you aren't even going to fight later. I don't get why he's holding back so much. Maybe it's because he wants to save his magic for, like, interfering in later fights that Theodora may be caught in, such as against Percy. But, like, even still, dude, wouldn't it be better to just immediately attack and not waste your magical power here? Like, I genuinely don't get it. Because it seems like this would be the move to just attack. But I promise you, until a certain later scenario happens, he does not move. He doesn't. He just sits there and lets the Purgatory take care of it. Which I guess is easier, but still, I don't know, dog. You could have ended this a whole lot quicker and actually could have won if you were just slightly proactive, like you were in last chapter. But honestly, seeing Rothus be like this, be like, yeah, don't worry. I could just knock you out and take care of this nice, simple, and easy, but I'll let you sit here and die a slow, agonizing, painful death if it really comes down to it. So, Rothus, why were you getting on Turret's case when he was brutalizing Anne? Huh? If you're really willing to go as far as making this random individual you've never met suffer a painful, agonizing, excruciating death at the hands of Purgatory, what were you getting mad at Rothus for? Or not, what were you getting mad at Turret for? Turret didn't do anything wrong. If anything, Turret was realistic. They didn't slaughter her, they didn't bisect her. But no, you're telling me that if you were fighting anybody, you would just allow them to die to Purgatory. So Rothus, you a little bit freaky yourself. You a little bit of a goofy goober yourself, Buckaroo. I don't trust you. But with it being the case, we see Nasians look at that sauce, look at that juice, and start to think a little bit. Ugh, it'd be do or die, but I could absorb a small amount of this miasma. Then, if I can instantly acquire and neutralize it inside me. How's that one like Sonic meme go? I don't know. Once again, I don't know what it's from. I find myself consuming memes without actually getting the origin. Like that one. Like what is that actually from? I don't recognize the model. I don't know. Like typically, I can recognize some models from some Sonic games. I'm not the most knowledgeable Sonic fan out there, but like I see that meme all the time. Like, where did that come from? I haven't looked into it yet, but Like I mentioned earlier on the cover page, Nasians is perfectly set up to be the most broken character to ever break characters, because they're going to get an amp later. But the fact that this is even possible, the fact that they could possibly absorb a drop of Purgatory, completely adapt it and its effects, and then start launching that out at people, absurd, absolutely, indubitably insane. And just there, you can just do that. And top that off with the fact that Nasian still isn't using the full propensity and capability of his bag. He hasn't even attempted with her, which makes people way weaker. It's like, dog, what? Maybe it wouldn't work on Rothus though. If Wither truly was like a poison, just like the rest of everything, since Nasian's gonna copy it, maybe Rothus would be immune to it. But still, Nasian just such a deep bag. If you were to add Purgatory poison to it, dog, he'd be unstoppable. Until he gets stat checked. He visually gets stat checked by certain characters. But still, he'd be so good hacks-wise. He'd basically be the new series Merlin, even though we already have Gawain. But with it being the case, we do get to see that this thought, this instinct, triggers a flashback for Nasians. You must avoid undue confidence. He's poured some tea, and we flash back to a conversation that Hendrickson and Nasians had when Nasians was still under Hendrickson's tutelage. A single misstep can easily lead to your death. You must proceed carefully at all times. Am I clear, Nasians? The ability to neutralize, create, and combine poisons within you is truly... I was doing so good. The ability to neutralize, create, and combine poisons within you is a truly amazing magic. In fact, I'm downright jealous of it. Oh, right. But it only works by exposing yourself to the poison to capture its components. Oh, yes. That's why I try to take in as little as possible. But that doesn't make it any less risky. With some poisons, the tiniest little grain can be lethal. I'm assuming that's what this is, right? Wait, let me just scratch my screen. Yeah, that's what this is. Apparently, this one dot of poison can be lethal. But even with your incredible immunity, there's just no telling. The same's true for memory blockers, too. Without that magic, you're just a regular boy. Remember. Oh, thank you for the advice, sir. Now, this does bring up an interesting thing. This brings up the idea that hypothetically, there are poisons in this universe that could off Nasians despite their innate immunity to it. And also, it does once again imply that Nasian's control or immunity is very heavily reliant on his magic. So hypothetically, if Nasians were ever hit by Kill Switch, by Gother, for whatever reason, they could immediately die to the poison that they produce. Or they have produced, because really they wouldn't be able to produce poison if they were hit by Kill Switch, because their poison making would be shut down. But that is the thing. Nasian's immunity, one, isn't perfect, and two, could be compromised. So essentially, this is why Nakaba, at least not immediately, gives them Purgatory poison. Like, I think, once again, I'm all about Nakaba somewhat caring about balancing and power scaling, and I think that's what this is, even though he gave them Wither. Just is not letting them use it. He gave them the Ceranos amp, and it's not letting them use it. But still, with that being the case, this is meant to be the reason that Nasians doesn't just pluck and eat. And I'll admit that's good. A lot of people pointed that out last review as well, when I mentioned, well, Nasians could just buff himself like crazy by taking a piece of that poison. I don't find anything good. But y'all and Nakaba were good to bring up this point that maybe Nasian's immunity isn't actually an immunity. It's just a very, very high resistance. However, personally, even though Nasian doesn't seem to go on to absorb it himself or themselves and get the amp of this chapter, I do believe that they could do it for two reasons. Number one, Rothus themselves. Rothus admits he's immune to the poisons and the fires and the frigid cold because he just has innate resistances to it. He has a very strong body and ability to resist it. And obviously Bond himself was another human who evolved to withstand Purgatory. So I think since Nasian's own ability is a derivation of Disaster, which allows him to control the potency and levels of certain poisons, I wouldn't be shocked if Nasian could consume the miasma of Purgatory just fine. Maybe not just fine, but he would suffer for a little bit. Like, he would begin to feel it, but then his body would immediately break it down, understand it, dissect it, and then Nasian would be fine, heal himself from it, and then reproduce it. And then he'd be even more broken. Or they'd be even more broken. Which is why Nakaba probably doesn't do it. Probably doesn't do it, even though it would make perfect sense. Once again, the man, the guy ate, the person ate a whole magic on first impact and was like, yeah, I can do this real quick. And then did it real quick. But with it being the case, we see that ultimately Nasian decides to not really take that gamble. They could have rolled the dice, but they decided not to. Oh, Purgatorial poison. I'm more than eager to try it. But if I die in the process, it's all over. Such a dangerous bet. But, on the other hand, I can't just lose without getting at least some revenge for Engelad. I know for a fact Rothus was involved in that travesty. So that's also really, really cool. I do like, once again, the dynamic between the two Percival lovers. Obviously, Donnie loves Percival too, but in a completely different broski way. But ultimately, Nasians does respect Anne. Heavily respect Anne. And maybe not views her directly as the leader like she occasionally tried to be in part 1, but still does respect her capabilities, her status, and even her pride. Like, he ultimately wants this get back against Rothus because he knows for a fact that Rothus was involved in the brutal beating of Anne. And I like that. I like that Nasians does have genuine, real, proper care for all his friends. While he does love Percival first and foremost, Percival is his guiding light, as we shall soon see super in-depthly. Ultimately, he still does love and care for, or they still do love and care for the rest of their friends. And with that being the case, we do get to see that the Purgatory rift is not just being passive. The poison and the damage that is leaking from it is doing numbers to the very arena they're fighting in. Oh, as the fight wears on, Nasians is drifting ever closer to the edge. Not good. If only Nasians had an ability that would allow him to avoid falling off the edge. I wonder if only Nasians was a hybrid between a species that is notorious for one very specific ability. Oh, I wonder. It's actually so weird. I'll admit, it is very weird that Lance can't fly. That is such a weird, he needs to transform and fly. That is such a strange thing. And the main reason I say it's a strange thing is remember what Nasians is a hybrid of. He's a hybrid of a fairy and a giant. Obviously, the giant, like, I'll be honest, Diane's genes needed to fight back, like sweet mother of mercy. Maybe they made Nasians all the, well, presumably they made all the kids while Diane was small. I'm guessing, unless King's real, like, you want to talk about the real fairy wood, unless King got that thing on him, he was like, boom, he had to go cavern diving or something. So, like, presumably he made them all while they were small, but still, Diane's genes did not fight back at all in Nasians. But that's the thing. He's part giant and he can still fly. Or they can still fly. But Lance, who's half human, multiple humans that can fly and have magic to allow them to fly, and Lance can't fly, that still seems, that's such a weird nerf to give to him. Like, all the buffs and all the raw power you gave Lance, but you didn't give him the ability to fly. But Nasians got it, even though they're half giant. Like, what? Like, what's the... And the thing is that I also wonder, can Nasians read hearts too? Can they control the earth at all? Can they... What was the other one? Can they read hearts? Can they control the earth? And can... Just one more. Is reading hearts, control the earth. What is the other fairy? Oh, shapeshift, like Lance can. Can they? I don't know. Once again, Nasians just finding out that they're a fairy giant hybrid has left a lot of room for their development. Once again, they are now, especially after this chapter, they are the most broken of the generic Percival platoon. And it makes sense because he's the only other non-human member, or they're the only other non-human member. So... But with it being the case, we see that Donnie realizes that Nasians may just be cooked. Hey, if poison won't work on him, what'll we do now? And Dubs, being a teeny tiny bit speciesist, says, not much, I'd say. This was a terrible matchup for him. The fairy clan just has the worst luck, don't they? Where did that come from, Mr. Giant? Huh? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, Buckaroo? Pal? Amigo? What do you mean by that? What about the fairy clan having the worst luck? Why? Because you and Dahlia got brainwashed, Dubs? Like, what you talking about, Buckaroo? What you talking about? Especially considering, buddy, pal, amigo, that kid out there is half giant. Or, well, actually, no, Nasians is an adult now. But that guy out there is half giant. He's half giant, half fairy. He is equal parts. So it's not just the fairy clan. Ironically, both the fairy clan and the giant clan have the worst luck. So, But I do actually like that. If that is like a little nod of like Joel having a bit of higher pride in giants and stuff like that, I do think that's cool. I like that the species have their own opinions on each other and on themselves and each other's species because it makes sense. It would exist. It would naturally exist. I think that's a cool little detail. But with it being the case, Boris, while he's all focused on, and no, by Anshan, another person who's not getting any play. But with it being the case, we see that Edlund says, oh, he's cornered now. And Nasians keeps backing up to the edge of the arena. And we see Rothus say, pick one, give up now, and die by the poison, or plunge into the abyss. And then Nasians finally, and admittedly, I'll defend him in a second, but finally it's like, oh wait, no duh, and leaps off the edge of the ring. And we see, as they go to fall into the void, Rose is shocked, and Capital Knee is shocked as they declare, Nasian jumps off the bridge. Oh, hang on. Boom! They just fly. Once again, you just sure forgot he could do that. And Nasian says, whew, as Capital Knee notes, he's floating in the air. And Nasian wholeheartedly admits, oh wow, I completely forgot that I can fly. Which is hilarious and kind of dumb. But once again, Nasians just figured out they could do that, what? In universe, maybe a week ago? Like, I stop. Sorry. Hold on. I'm not sleepy. Hold on. Let me just hit it for the last time. Alright, there we go. But, with it being the case, sorry, I hit the Mario theme real quick. But, I don't blame them. In universe, I don't think much time has passed since Nasian's awakening, and even understanding that they are a fairy giant hybrid, and actually the proper child of King and Diane, so it makes sense that they would forget to fly. In fact, they were struggling with it when they first flew away from the Fairy King's forest following Percy, and they flew very shortly in their dive into Camelot, and then they kind of spent a little bit of time there, and didn't have any reason to practice their flying. So, it makes sense. It'd be like it's like learning a new skill. If you forget, or no, not necessarily, because it's so weird, because like flying is never what we as humans can do. But like, it's routine and what you're used to doing versus something you just figured out how to do. Like, notably, when I was first like doing digital art, I had no idea what layers were. And then for a while afterwards, until I figured out how to properly use layers and started doing it more and more and more, it was hard for me to forget, oh no, how am I going to color this in without messing this up on this layer? I was like, oh wait, layers. And then I'd go and do layers. So I don't blame Nasians. This is a new part of their kit that they hadn't used for the past 18 years of their life. So I'm not shocked. But with it being the case, we see that Rothus declares a lie, which it just turns out to be a flat out lie, as he says, hovering up there won't help at all. The miasma spreads both up and out. It'll still catch you. And we see the portal almost respond to Rothus's jabs as it tries to reach out towards Nasians. And we see that Nasians admits, oh, I can't find a close orb with poison. What can I do now? You could still take a little bit of that purgatory poison. But at the same time, Rothus, I'm shocked that he's just allowed to do this. Like, notably, I don't think the integrity of Camelot itself would be in jeopardy. Like, I'm not saying that I think if Rothus leaves the portal open too long, suddenly Purgatory beasts will flood through in mass and, like, destroy all of Camelot, or the rift will open and then consume all of Camelot, or at least all of Anfund, and then go into all of Camelot. But, like, you would think having a direct portal to another world would, like, attract any of the creatures there, whether it be one of the mutated soul beasts that we see Bon and Meliodas turn into when they're there, or even though regularly spawning creatures, such as Hawk's family or anyone, would just like notice the portal and then dive through. You would think, especially considering how long he keeps it open, without really doing anything with it. It's just there, leaking purgatory stuff. So, it's strange. But it does make sense. It does generally make me wonder, though, what is Rothus's innate magic? Is it Gatekeeper? Is it like Melascula's Underworld Gate, where that's like the whole basis of his own original magic, and then the resistances are something he developed, or other resistances is innate magic, and then Gatekeeper is a general magic that any of the people who work in Camelot could hypothetically use and open? I don't know. Based on Capital Knee's reaction to it, assuming that Capital Knee is not Gother, then maybe it is just a unique magic to Rothus. But at the same time, I actually don't know. We know there are many other Chaos Knights that have some sort of access to Purgatory or summoning spells. So, I don't know. But with it being the case, we see as Nasians is at an impasse on what to do, suddenly they hear a voice. You ain't gonna use me? And Nasians goes, am I tweaking? Huh? Who's there? And both Beltripe and Capital Knee look on her like, are they tweaking? And we see, and then Nasians asks, was it just me? The effects of the miasma, or? It's the pendant you have on. The pendant. And we see that Nasians looks down and realizes, oh, wait, my pendant is talking to me, but what for? Oh, also, people are now going. This panel just reminded me because it kind of does look like it. People are saying the Nazis has chosen to become a girl. Possibly, I would actually be shocked based on Percy's seemingly apparent preferences. If that's the case, I don't know. I'll wait a little bit until they say it. I'll still keep trying to refer to Nazians with they them pronouns because they're currently, or at least they were non-binary, just as that filthy thing, POW. And then notably, I don't like POW. I just don't like POW, right? I don't like POW. But POW was also non-binary at the time because they had not fallen in love yet, so their body hadn't chosen yet. So that's the same thing for Nazians at the moment. So, or presumably, maybe they became a girl. Once again, I'll wait until they mention it, or someone finds out, or it's actually said in the manga. So they will continue to have they them pronouns until then. But just in case you're wondering, because I saw someone had mentioned that in last week's comment section too. So, bada bing, bada boom. But with it being the case, we see the Nazians realizes this voice sounds familiar too, and the pendant says, "Well, yeah. Because that's the second time you're talking to me. Come on now. Don't you remember, Sonny boy?" And we see that Nazians then realizes, to the shock of Nazians and myself, is that, wait, is this the sacred tree? The one and only. So, this sliver of the sacred tree, this piece of Chastity, remember, is essentially a branch of the sacred tree broken off and then given to King, is actually speaking. It is a direct representative of the sacred tree itself. Now, whether or not this implies that the sacred tree could speak to all the furry kings at all times, hypothetically, Basquias and I forget what Droll's, or not Droll's, Dahlia's Spirit is called, and Chastity, are they all just technically pieces of their parent, and thusly could have spoken to them at any time, we just never really heard them speak? Or not? Is this a piece of its consciousness? Or is it literally directly linked back to the sacred tree that's in the fairy realm? I actually don't know, which is interesting. But with it being the case, it claims it's the one and only, which is cool. I'm happy that we're getting to see one of the deities, one of them actually speak and interact. Because notably, we had the Demon King, but not only was he a meanie stupid head, but also he rarely spoke. And whatever he did, it was all in threatening, ominous, vague quotes and stuff like that. And the supreme deity, this didn't exist in the original manga. She exists in Cursed by Light to get body back. But that being the case, that's actually a teeny tiny bit absurd that we actually finally get to meet one. And presumably, they're going to stick around for a little bit if this chapter is any indication. We're actually going to get to spend time with one of the three deities of this universe. Because remember, it's these three and Chaos. There is no giant deity. That's it. Chaos made both humans and giants. And we are obviously not going to hear from Chaos for a while. We're just going to hear through Arthur. So I'm happy we're actually going to interact with one of the deities. And we see that no one else can tell, which is hilarious. And Capital Knee just says, it appears Nazians appears to be talking to himself. And we see that Nazians declares, but I can't even believe this. And Rothus, once again, not moving. Rothus, can you not jump? I mean, I get it. He's high in the air. Maybe you don't want to risk getting knocked into the abyss because you can't fly. But dude, you just posted up here. You couldn't have done anything. You can jump. You have hops, bro. I'm pretty sure you do. But with it being the case, Rothus says, it's over now. But of course he doesn't do anything. And Nazians is very, very confused as they look away, trying to figure out, how can a piece of jewelry talk to me? And hey, Nazians, you exist in a world of magic. You should not be surprised that a piece of jewelry can talk to you. But ultimately, the fairy tree says, well, here, in that case, just picture me whatever way you prefer. And we see Nazians close their eyes and look and sees this. This. One of the gods of the universe, people. This thing right here, it created an entire realm. An entire separate dimension. Well, I don't say, I always say separate space, because that's how Nakaba refers to it when talking about gods made in those volumes, at least in the official translations from Viz. And also because it runs on the same time flow as the main dimension, aka the mortal realm. So but regardless, I'm just saying that for scaling talk clarification. But this is a deity, y'all. A big old fluffy leafy afro, a thick fluffy mustache, a pretty clean lined beard, and a belly button sticking out. interesting design. I mean, don't know. And notably, it is very specifically not the actual official design of the consciousness of the fairy tree. As it says itself, as Nassim looks on confused, to see this being its grandpa, or being their grandparent, Nassim looks around and realizes what it looks like and says, "Hey, what kind of picture is this, huh?" "Oh, it does fit your voice, I think." Which is why I've given the fairy tree the most, like, weird, out there, "Oh, Sonny, why don't you listen here?" Like, and I'm trying to make it sound as, like, gender ambiguous as possible. Because once again, remember, I mean, maybe you could argue that the Supreme Deity and the Demon King both either got piped down or laid pipe in something in order to make Meliodas and Eldris and Elizabeth, because, like, they're actual children. But I just call Dahlia, Elaine, King, Gerharde, and Gloxinia the sons and daughters of the fairy tree. But apparently, we don't know how they were made. Presumably, they were made by flowers, but apparently, fairies can get piped and lay pipe. Like, that is a thing. You can pick. King laid pipe and Elaine got piped. It's like, that's entirely possible. But considering the fairy tree is a tree with a consciousness, I think it did just birth them itself. It just made them. So, technically, this is Nasian's grandparent, singular. They do not have unlike Tristan, who does have two godly grandparents, though one is very indirect in the case of the Supreme Deity, and one is direct in the case of the Demon King, Nasian's has the one. And now they're traveling around their grandpa, or grandparent, which is hilarious, at least to me. I find it funny. And we see that even the fairy tree is a little bit disappointed in the form that their grandchild has chosen for him, as they say, "Can't you make it me a bit more divine than that?" Which is true. I do think the fairy tree deserves it. It is a deity. It's weird because it looks like this and it sounds like this, but it is a deity. And I do like how juxtaposed the fairy tree seems to be by its attitude and its appearance and its sign to its older sibling. Well, I call them older, but I actually don't know. I think they are older. I think it was the Supreme Deity and the Demon King are twins. They were made at the same time, light and darkness, and the fairy tree came later. And thusly, it is the baby of its elder siblings, of its sibling trio, and thusly, it's cool that it's getting a voice, it's getting a personality, we're getting an appearance for it, and it's so juxtaposed to the very high and haughty and very serious and all about the destruction or domination of creation in the world that the Supreme Deity and Demon King were about. It does make me wonder, though, especially considering the container of chaos was made of moss, did this little fella have anything to do with the sealing of chaos? Like, of course, if the Supreme Being and the Demon King can create entire worlds, they can definitely create a moss cage. But, like, it was made of moss. Nature elements. Just like the fairy tree was also a plant. So, like, I do genuinely wonder if this thing had any role to play in the sealing of chaos. It'd be so interesting if that was just like a random lore tidbit that ended up dropping, like, "Oh, what are you fighting, sonny boy? Oh, you're fighting chaos. Oh, I remember when I fought my daddy." "Wait, you fought chaos?" "Oh, yes. You see, there was a wonderful, amazing, legendary battle with me and my big sis and my big brother. What we ended up doing is I made the cage. They ended up fist fighting it for a while, realized there was a consciousness, and then I just opened up the cage's mouth and they threw chaos in there. It was delicious." But I don't know. I'd love to get some sort of lore from it, because this is, unironically, currently, unless we run into the Lady of the Lake, this is the oldest character in the series that, like, we can see and actually speak to. Older than Merlin, older than Mel, older than Elizabeth Memories, older than Puppet Gother, older than like, it is the oldest, the most ancient. Here, in Nasian's hands. Crazy to think about, right? But with it being the case, we see that no one else can see it, as it declares, "Well, anyway, you were chosen by me and all, so you gotta shape up fast. For me, kid, don't make me spread you." And we see Nasian say, but why did you pick me? Other fairies are far more qualified than I. And, I do, you know what, I'll go with this. "You're pure and upright, kid. You dislike conflict, but you'll commit to it if it'll protect what's dear to you. You're a lot like your father, you know. That's why I chose you. And now it's time to start using me in return." So that is sweet. Ultimately, I do like that Nasians, who does look so much like their father, which is so hilarious. Father with their this hair. But Nasians being directly compared to King in that way is very, very sweet. I like that Nasians ultimately does get to have this moment where their own grandparent recognizes that you're very pure. You're pure of heart. You have that determination. You have that willingness that your own father displayed that proved himself worthy of me and more of my power in the past. So now it's your time, your journey, your role to walk down this path and pull out more and more of the power that I can offer you. I think that's very, very sweet. And I also do believe, he didn't pick out the fairies because they aren't the firstborn child of the royal family. Like, so far, the only people we've seen that have spirit spears are the royals. Like, they're direct kids. So king having a kid, you being their first kid, it makes sense that you would also be chosen. I think this is a better, more pure motivation other than royal bloodline. Purity must be maintained down that bloodline. But with it being the case, I do like that the sacred tree is like, don't worry, I'll be here with you. I will, even if your father couldn't come with you, your grandparent, will follow you, will help you out, and will move with you in order to do what I can do. And it can do. Trust me, it can do. As we see Nasian's eyes shoot wide open. And we see Rothus, once again, getting very annoyed at the fact that he's just forced to stand around. Though you could have attacked earlier, Rothus. It's all your fault. The fact that you take this L is your fault. We see Rothus declare, hey, get that down here already, you! You can't just mutter to yourself up there all day. Which is, once again, interesting. They cannot see the fairy tree. Which is kind of funny. It makes me wonder if Percy can see it. Like, maybe that's another reason why Percy walked away. Not just, like, faith in Nazis, but also so we don't know if Percy can actually see the fairy tree. And this just hit me. I want to see these two talk. I want to see Percy and the fairy tree talk because I want to know what the fairy tree's opinion on Percy is. Not just in a sense of, are you good enough for my grandchild? I swear I'll beat the taste out your mouth if you win. But also the sense that I want to know what the deities know about life spirits. Right? Considering they made the realms, they made their species. I wonder if they had to hold up any sort of contract, had to drag in, had to control. Like, what are the deities' relations to the life spirits? Because Percy is a life spirit, so presumably a very important one or a very powerful one. So I want to know what kind of interactions that the fairy tree, a deity, will have with Percy, a life spirit. Whether or not they'll have any conversation, whether they'll notice each other, whether they'll even acknowledge each other. Because who knows? Maybe it was a direct relationship, a direct contract that the deities made in order to make sure that all their people would be alive. Or maybe it's something more indirect. I don't know. I'm excited to see. That just hit me out of nowhere. But with it being the case, we see that Rothus says, if you don't want to fight, then forfeit. But then again, Rothus, you can fight too, buddy. You can attack. But unfortunately, I guess because he's a Camelot resident or something, Camelot does align and say, good point. We'll never finish the bout like this. Either surrender or keep fighting, please. And we see Nasians be like, oh, you want to fight? Oh, we can fight. As they raise their finger to the sky, blade in hand. And suddenly, the pendant around their neck begins to swirl and spin. And Rothus is shocked to see what's going on. And Nasian says, but I don't know how to use a spirit spear. And internally, the fairy tree responds, oh, it's super easy. Like before, it's all about how you picture it. What kind of power are you looking for right now? Of course, with this tiny sliver, second form is about the best you're going to get. Now, I do think this is a bit of a mistranslation because Nasian is just going to use 2 forms, or possibly 3 if you think this initial sliver of the spirit spear counts as a form. But still, interesting. I wonder if that means Nasians will only have to go back and like rip off more of their granddaddy or grandparent because this little bit isn't enough. Or if this piece will be able to keep evolving and keep growing. We know that as long as it's nurtured well enough, whether it be by magic or, in the fairy tree's case, in the mortal realm, the portal to it, mortal blood or immortal blood, the fairy tree can grow and keep regrowing even from a separate piece of itself. And we know there can be multiple fairy trees. Remember, Benwick, where Bond rules, is a fairy kingdom with a fairy tree. But it's not the fairy tree, such as the sacred fairy tree that exists within the fairy realm. And of course, it's not the fairy tree that exists in the mortal realm that Bond helped regrow. So, like, there are different fairy trees. So I wonder if this piece can keep growing as long as Nasians keeps using it and nurturing it, allowing Nasians to progressively unlock more and more and more and more forms. But with it being the case, this does also kind of worry me, because then what's Lance going to get? Because I was kind of really hoping that Lance would get a spirit spear. But maybe he'll get a spirit sword, I guess? Maybe. I don't know. I really want to get Lance to get a spirit spear. But Nasians is taking that up. As we see, Rothus asks, hey, what is that? And we see spirit spear Chassiful. First form, Sponge Percival. Like it's adorable, but Nasians, get his meat out your mouth. Please! I'm begging you, bro. Hop off tip, dog. Really? Really? You take Percival into this? But we see first form Sponge Percival is huge, gargantuan, and dare I say, considering it is the sponge, even though it is the first form, I do want to believe that this is Nasian's guardian equivalent. How much control he has over it will be further established, or how much control they have over it will be further established eventually, I assume. But this does remind me of the second form guardian for Basquias, which was the hornet beast. It reminds me of the teddy bear that King has for his not second form. Well, actually, I think it is second form guardian. And now Percy, the Sponge Percival, will probably be controlled and manipulable by Nasians eventually. Right now, he just uses it as a sponge. And you may be wondering, what's he using it to sponge up? As Donnie goes, oh shoot, I gotta wipe the crust. Gosh, I thought I wiped all the crust on my eyes. Golly, get off. You've been in like the past 3 videos in the live reaction and the past 2 reviews I did today. Golly, get off of me. But what the heck is that? And we see Nasians throw down chunky, spongy Percy. And I do love the little reaction face that it has. And we see Rothus tumble away, going, whoa! And we see that Captain O'Neill explains, the giant Percival doll that appeared descends upon Rothus, but Rothus is quick enough to dodge. And we see Rothus go, darn it! Ugh, but is that all? Is that all you got? Come down here and fight me. But unfortunately, Rothus did not want that smoke, as he sees the Sponge Percival begins to spongily absorb all of the purgatorial miasma, as it says, hey, what's with this freaky looking doll? It's not sucking in all the purgatory miasma, is it? And it is very specifically sucking in all the purgatory miasma. But Nasians does a very interesting thing here. He takes all this purgatorial miasma that has leaked out the rift that Rothus opened, and instead of either taking a piece of it for themselves in order to eat it and consume it and then get access to purgatory poison while it's distilled or weakened by the absorption power of this, which is crazy. This is honestly a crazy little feat for a piece of chastity to have such a powerful negation effect and absorption effect over purgatory like this. Like, that's actually low-key crazy. King surviving purgatory as long as he's wearing his armor? Okay, maybe. But also, we see Nasians, just like they daddy, really start waving them arms around and start thinking, as they say, I'll convert that concentrated mass into energy and stamp it out the root. So all the power that's contained within the purgatorial miasma that leaked out of that realm, Nasians concentrates and then does a power conversion on it, which is almost similar to what he does with what they do with Venom Mixer, where they absorb the poison, neutralize it, and then possibly combine it in order to make different combinations. But instead, they take the mass and convert it into mass and convert it into energy. And remember, E equals MC squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So Nasians technically just performed the energy conversion thing, which is crazy. That means he broke down mass and converted it straight into power by multiplying it at the speed of light squared. And boom, the Sponge Percival mutates, as Rothus asks, oh, now what? Into Spirit Spear Chastiful, second form Spirit Spear. So this is interesting. This is the first time, I think, the Spirit Spear has had its second form be its first form, or essentially the Spirit form be anything but the first form, as it turns into a gargantuan, I'd say relatively speaking, spear that has a Percival head. Once again, Nasians, get his meat out your mouth. He will never love you. But we see the spear lunging straight towards the purgatory portal. And remember, I want y'all to remember this. This is a sliver of the Spirit Spear, and Nasians is nowhere near as powerful as they daddy. Put this in your mind. And remember, what Nasians is going to attack is a rift in space. Rothus tore open a hole in dimension. This is a spatial portal, meaning it is a direct path into purgatory. It is not like a door. Like, notably, it'd be one thing if this was a door, right? And Rothus opened a door and Nasians was attacking the door to like close it. No, Nasians is attacking a rip in reality with a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of his father's and the great fairy tree's power. And what does it do? Boom! It tears straight into the purgatory portal, tears straight through it, sends Rothus flying, and destroys the rift. So that means that Nasians at any moment can just tear through a rip in space and close it. You know what this means? Nasians can shut down spatial hacks with his spirit spear. Admittedly, he did use, but then the thing is though, this is a question of whether or not, but I think it's amped. Notably, you can tell here, let me go back. You can blame it all on me. I nearly hit stop. Ooh, that was bad. But I was wrong. But notably, he does do the energy conversion thing here. So it is debatable on whether or not this could do it naturally. And Nasians even says, I'll convert that concentrated mass into energy and stamp it out at the root. So maybe this is something Nasians can only perform when the spirit spear is amped by purgatorial poison, and it depends on whether or not Nasian's got any, and thus he can reproduce it. But still, the fact that they can even do that in the first place, shut down a spatial portal at all, amped or not amped, that's crazy. That is absurd. That is some next level stuff right there. Nasians may just be Tatsu to Gojo, bypass infinity. But with it being the case, we see that Rothus now has no chance, as a blade is put to their throat and Nasians looks down. And Capital Knee is shocked to say, oh, look at this. And Beltreep even gives due respect and due props and says, well done. As Nasians is declared the winner. I give. The winner of match 4 is Nasians. And as the spirit spear or the sliver returns around their neck, their grandparent and grandchild exchange a smile. W chapter. I mean, like I said, the only unfortunate thing, like I mentioned way back in the beginning, the only unfortunate thing is that Nasian refuses to hop off Percy's meat, and thusly his entire spirit sphere is based around Percy. That's the only sad thing, at least to me. But still, seeing Nasians wield the spirit spear, whip out multiple forms of it, control it super duper well, show off their flight, show off their magic potency, show off their ability to manipulate Purgatory, show off a crazy feat of destroying a spatial portal like that, all that is super duper cool. And this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. And Nasians is a side character. They are truly living up to the fact that they are the children of 2 of the 7 Lysins. They are truly living up to that hype. Where before I was already glazing Nasians to the moon and back, they are getting stronger and stronger and higher and higher. And with the introduction of the sacred tree being here, it opens up so much narrative possibility. Insane amounts of narrative possibility. For character interactions, for story interactions, for lore drops, for history, all that. This chapter is perfect. It is literally perfect. Like I said, I make all the jokes about Nasians eating the hop off Percy's meat, but still, that is wonderful. That is fantastic. And if you made it all the way to the end of this review, please do me a favor and leave originator. I was gonna say like grandparent, but I feel like maybe people may accidentally comment that already. So leave originator. I'm not sure how you spell that. Is that a word? Is originator? I think originator is a word. O-R-I-G, originator. Yeah, I think it's a word. O-R-I-G-I-N-A-T-O-R, originator. In the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a page down below. You can support me for as low as $1 a month, and things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. And so now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions to whatever the series I happen to review, including the 20-minute live reaction to this very chapter, ad free variations of all my videos, and becoming a $25 patron or a $25 member. You can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Greyhound, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Brandon Payne, Glacier XE, and G Prosper. And then I'd like to give a big old thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Igneo Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our Ink tier members: Fine, Austin Wimberly Euchia, and Yuki Alla. Then I'd like to give a big ol' gargantuan thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big gargantuan thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Item Okami. And I'd like to give a final gargantuan, supersized, sweet mother of mercy, that kidney will be yours one day, or the Black Myth video, whichever comes first, possibly both. that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.